Now, even in the easy module, we are going to have some questions that are a little harder, and this is the kind of thing that's going to freak a lot of people out. But you have no excuse. You have to get this right. And it's because as soon as we see it, we know what strategy we're going to use. What are these answer choices? They are equations. So my thought is, especially if I was confused, plug points into equations. I can tell without even reading it that they're telling me a story and they're trying to get me to write an equation to match that story. I don't want to do that because, sometimes you think about a story wrong and then the equation comes out wrong. But we don't have to do that here because they gave us a bunch of equations. All we have to do is test them out. So let's see how we can extract points from this story. One of them is easy, but it's not going to help too much. But let's take a look at the story first. An investment account was opened with an initial value of $890. Right away, that's a point. And you should be able to pull that out confidently because we have that the T, the number of years the account was opened, is going to be 0, and the M of T, meaning the value of the account, is $890. So this is very common. Lots of questions involving stories on the SAT are going to give us a y-intercept. So let's just plug that in. Now what happens is when we plug in 0 for T in all of these choices, the exponent becomes 0. And then anything raised to the 0, you have to memorize this, is 1. So if I just did this for choice A, it's going to be 890 times 1/2 to the 0, which is 1. So it's going to give me 890. Meaning this point that I've taken out of the story doesn't really help because every single answer choice here works. When I plug in 0, I get 890 out as my value for M. So that's fine. That's not a problem. That happens, but you at least still need to think about that because sometimes that will eliminate some answer choices and it can be really, really helpful. And also, when you have a story, you should be comfortable recognizing when they're talking about a y-intercept where the x value, in this case the t value, is equal to 0. Very, very important for the SAT. So hopefully we can get another point. I don't see a lot of other numbers here, but let's see what they say. The value of the account doubled every 10 years. Which equation represents the value of the account, M of T, in dollars, T years after the account was opened? So they don't give us another point. But again, a very important SAT skill is you need to be able to pull another point out of this. Some of you will be able to just look at the situation and get it right without doing this strategy, but a lot of you will think you're about to get it right and still get it wrong. So it's much more reliable to have an actual point. But just follow the instructions, right? So after 10 years, so let's make the T 10, right? What happens? The account doubles. You know what it means to double something. So what happens when you double 890? 890 times 2 is 1,780. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to take 10, put that in for T in all these equations, and hope it spits out 1,780. So if I do that in choice A, I'm going to get 890 times 1/2 to the 10 over 10. Well, 10 over 10 is just 1. So this is just 1/2 to the first, which is 1/2. So this is going to take 1/2 of 890, which I believe is 445. Wrong direction. Gone. This one's going to be 890 times 1/10 to the 10 over 2. So 10 over 2 is 5. I'm already not liking this, but I'll go through the motions here. So 1/10 to the 5th, do the germ das first, is a really small number, 0.00001 times 890 is 0.0089, not 1,780. Gone. 890 times 2 to the, again, 10 over 10 is 1. So 890 times 2, I'll do it, but it seems like what we did before, right? So 890 times 2 is the same thing we got before when we did it, 1,780. So this looks good. However, just a good habit with plug points into equations is make sure that you go through all the choices. It is always possible that your point works in multiple equations, so it is safer to just do everything. And in this case, it's not, but it's still good to kind of do that. So, right, if we put 10 in for T, we would have 10 to the 5th. That's going to be a big number. 10 to the 5th is 100,000, and that times 890 is an even bigger number. So we get 890,000,000. So what is that? 89 million, if I did that right? Possible I lost a zero somewhere in there. I don't care. It's clearly wrong. C is definitely the answer. Now again, many of you could have read this story and just known that that was going to be it. But harder versions of this question type are going to make it harder and harder to just read the story and know exactly what the equation is going to look like. So I say just get in the good habit of plugging the points into the equations, extracting points from the story, putting them in the equations and testing it out. That way you don't have to worry about whether your instincts are right or wrong, whether there's a trap you're falling into. You can see it with your own eyes because the numbers won't lie. The numbers will tell you that only one equation makes sense with the story. That is absolutely what I would think about here. It is the right way to go. It is a much safer way to lock in some points that look hard, but are totally predictable and gettable.